What's up everybody and welcome back to the channel. So with the release of the hotfix on the 26th of September, which made some changes to Freyna and Kyle and Isomo and had some other, quality of life things being looked at in the game, we also had a new dev node. Dev node 14 was added to the website, to the First Descendant's website. And this dev node specifically focuses on some of the things which will be coming on October 10th with the big patch with Ultimate Freyna and the new Void Intercept boss and so on. So I thought we'd use this opportunity to go through this information in this video. Super excited to check it out, so we can basically just do something like this. Maybe I'll put my face down to the side over here. Let's fucking dig in. So first and foremost, of course, the thing I think that most people are super excited for is Ultimate Freyna is being added. So not only are we getting Ultimate Freyna, but we're also getting a story for her. Like with Ultimate Bunny, we had some story missions that we could play that had some cinematics, explained the character a little bit more and everything like that. We're going to be getting the same thing for Freyna. And then her Ultimate Freyna skin will be available. Basically, they just have some backstory and things that explain like why she's so powerful now and everything. But what is super important and very good information is that with Ultimate Freyna, we will get some Ultimate Freyna only modules like we see with other Ultimate characters, other Ultimate Descendants. And they actually detail what these two are here. So let's check it out. The first one is Toxic Mixture. This basically says that Freyna's passive skill Contagion Links is changed to Toxic Mixture. When equipped, this skill module will trigger Necrosis instead of Room 0 Trauma. As enemies gain more stacks of Necrosis, your firearm attack increases when you shoot at them. And if an enemy reaches max stacks, your firearm critical hit rate also increases. So this seems to be a module that is meant to increase her ability to fight and Void Intercept bosses. Freyna is exceptionally good at mobbing. But where she does lack a little bit, unless you build a very specific way, is her ability to do well in Void Intercept bosses compared to, I would say, some other Descendants who have an easier time doing that. Toxic Mixture is absolutely set to change that. So basically what this does is Contagion Links, which is her passive here, then completely changes to something called Toxic Mixture. And as long as you have that, then it says this skill module will trigger Necrosis instead of Room 0 Trauma. So you can see Room 0 Trauma is the top one over there. And this is basically the effect that gets caused whenever something steps into a toxic puddle. So the point is you would have that effect there, and then instead of Room 0 Trauma putting a dot on the enemy, basically just dealing damage to them based on the strength of the dot, you are now going to have this stacking buff to your firearm attack, which is probably going to stack to maybe, I don't know, this we don't know yet, but maybe to a stack of 10 or a stack of 5 or whatever. And then as soon as it hits that max stack, it's actually going to increase your firearm critical hit rate as well. This might make Freyna an exceptionally strong weapon-based Descendant. This is kind of like similar to what we see with Hailey, where she self-buffs herself and then increases her, by using her third ability, increases her critical hit rate and her critical hit damage. And then when it gets to a stack of 16, then she's at her almost powerful and she can't be knocked over and she deals a lot of damage. This is kind of like the Freyna version of that, and I'm fucking here for it. This sounds really cool. Looking forward to testing it out when it comes out. Then we also have Venom Injection. This says defense mechanism is changed to Venom Injection. Venom Injection consumes resources to recover your shield and increases skill power modifier while inflicting corrosion on enemies. Enemies inflicted with corrosion suffer reduced toxin resistance, making them more vulnerable to Freyna's toxic attacks. This is fucking insane, okay? For a Descendant that's already really strong at mobbing, this kind of like just pushes it to the next level. So defense mechanism is of course this one here. It's a second ability, and basically this one will be changed to Venom Injection. And but what this does is it consumes resources to recover your shield and increases skill power modifier. Skill power modifier, of course, powers up your other abilities and makes your darts and things like that, the poison that you're spreading around the room, deal more damage. And this will inflict something called corrosion on them. Corrosion reduces their toxin resistance, which means that your abilities, which are already ticking on them and dealing so much damage to them as a dot, will now deal even more damage to them. So I think this is going to be super helpful in some of the more difficult infiltrations that we're going to see. More on that just now. And this is going to be a fantastic way for her to be insanely strong. Not that she isn't already, but insanely strong at like clearing large groups of enemies. Then what we've also been waiting for in the October 10th patch is we want the Transcendant mods for Hailey. Hailey was added with the Season 1 patch, but she did not receive any of her Transcendant mods. So now we also have 2 Transcendant mods for her. The first one is super cool Kuiper round. This says that using the unique weapon, so the unique weapon is Zenith, and this is her 4th ability. It's that sniper round ability of hers. So this basically says that when you use that, it reduces firearm attack and fire rate, which means it shoots a little bit softer and you have to wait longer before you can take follow-up shots. It actually has a pretty decent fire rate, so this is obviously just going to slow it down quite a bit, or maybe not even that much, but increases weak point damage in return. So what you are losing out in fire rate and in firearm attack, you're actually upping your weak point damage. Also, successful weak point attacks recover your shield instead of her MP, so it makes her lets her sit down in the middle of enemy fire, and as long as you are landing weak point shots with that, it's actually going to give you shield energy back, which is going to give you a little bit more survivability so that you don't go down if you're maybe sitting in a dot or fire or something like that, or basically taking damage while you are making these shots. The increase in weak point damage decreases on firing the unique weapon, but increases again on successful weak point attacks. And guys, always remember that there's a translation happening here from Korean to English, and we've seen this happen in the past with patch notes and with dev sort of updates like this, that there's sometimes a little bit something lost in translation. This sentence reads weird, but I think basically what it means is that at the start you will have actually less weak point damage, but then with every consecutive weak point damage shot, so if you keep hitting the weak point, it's just going to keep on increasing it, and then of course if you miss, probably that damage falls off or something like that. So I think this is I don't know. I mean, we'd have to see just how much more weak point damage. If we're talking about like it reduces your firearm attack by like, I don't know, 20% or 30%, but gives you like 100% weak point damage, might be good. If this weak point damage is like astronomical, like 250% or 300, then you know, like this is a fucking automatic include, and it'll make her snipe build like insane for taking out bosses. Not that it's already you know, not insane, but this will just elevate it to the next level. But this would need to be, you know, tested a little bit, but I'm definitely interested in it. I like Snipe Hailey. I think she's really fucking cool, and being able to have a Transcendent mod that then really funnels all of her strength into like hitting those nice crisp weak point spots just seems like a good idea, so I'm all for it. Our second Transcendent mod for Hailey is called Cryogenic Cluster Shot, and one of the big complaints about Hailey is the fact that she is she's not a one-trick pony, but she's definitely a lot better at dealing with singular targets than she is at dealing with mobs. Her mobbing is not phenomenal, especially compared to some of the other characters which are far better at mobbing. This Transcendent mod aims to change that, because this says that the cryo effect is changed to cryogenic. So the cryo effect, basically all of her like this here, so cryo round, right, her first ability, you can see this causes something called cryo, and you can see there, and cryo is essentially like it's a debuff that goes on the enemy, and the amount of stacks of cryo on an enemy increases the amount of damage that they take. So like you can get 9 stacks of cryo on something, and then that means it's going to take 450% additional damage, which is okay. So basically then if we then look here, then this says that using a firearm to attack an enemy inflicted with cryogenic deals additional AoE damage to nearby enemies, making this a useful skill module for clearing out common monsters. So this means that, for example, what you can do, and this will be a interesting way to use it for mobbing, and I think it's actually pretty dope, is you can have a super low cooldown on your shoulder cannon, and then you can basically just like scan around and just shoot with the shoulder cannon, and as this hits enemies, it's going to inflict cryogenic on them. Then you use your normal gun, and basically that's going to make them pop, right? So it's almost like you use the shoulder cannon to infect them with cryogenic, and then you use a normal gun to essentially make them, you know, deal damage to the enemies around them. So it's going to turn just a normal debuff into like an AoE debuff, which is going to explode around, and that's actually going to be pretty damn cool. So yeah, I think this is pretty much what I was expecting to see with Hailey. We have one that is built basically for snipe Hailey, and then skill damage Hailey, and then we have one that's built for gun Hailey. So super excited. We'll definitely see what we have to do to get those, but let's see what we see. Okay, then we also see a very interesting note here that says, following the addition of modules to improve shield utilization in September 26th, today at the recording of this video, we saw the patch drop that gave us 2 new shield modules. They will also be adding modules that boost skill power or firearm attack instead of critical hit on October 10th. This is to encourage the use of weapons and descendants that have low critical hit rates. I think this is really cool. At the moment right now, mostly if you have a descendant or a weapon that has low crit, then you always have to try and like shoehorn more weak point damage, or basically just try to squeeze as much crit into it as you can and end up with something like 25 or 30%, which is not great, but hey, fucking what else are you gonna do? This gives you the ability to actually, you know, go in another direction and rather boost up firearm attack in the case of weapons, or skill power in the case of your descendants. I think this is really cool. Let's see what those modules look like though, but yeah, definitely a welcome addition. Then, of course, we have the new Void Intercept boss called the Deathstalker. Now, I was hoping for a little bit more information here. We don't have a lot. Fucking badass looking, by the way, though. But basically, I believe this is going to be a toxic / poison flavored Void Intercept boss. And basically, this then says here, while the enemy wreaks havoc, a new Colossus. I don't think it's important for me to read this to you. This isn't a fucking storybook, but basically just saying that this is going to be the new uber bad, and then also saying that with the introduction of the most powerful Colossus, aka Deathstalker, the difficulty of the final intercept battle, which is the most recent one we got, which is Gluttony, will actually be readjusted. This was done for Frostwalker as well, and it basically turned Frostwalker from something formidable into a fucking wet paper cloth. So I don't know if the same thing is going to be for Gluttony, but certainly there are people that are still struggling with Gluttony and getting a good group together to be able to take the boss down, because mechanically you need to play that way unless you have an exceptionally good group that know exactly what they're doing. So this is pretty helpful, and it's going to let more people basically kill that boss. So let's go. We also have another ultimate weapon being added called the Frost Watcher. This is a scout rifle, if I'm not mistaken, and is kind of like built to be best in slot for a hero like Hailey. Basically what this does is it seems to have a built-in effect like Hailey's 3 abilities. So what I mean by this, Hailey has this ability called Cold Fury, and basically when you activate this, it makes her firearm critical hit rate, a skill critical hit rate, a penetration, and all of that go up. It's like, and the longer you have this on, all the way up until 16 stacks, it reaches its max, and then you just deal a whole lot more damage because you have all of these additional buffs to your weapon, for example. But the downside to this is that it makes you incredibly slow, so it makes it very difficult to avoid like taking damage and everything like that. And if you have to be hyper agile, like sometimes in like a Gluttony fight, this can be bad, because what can happen is you can actually have a situation where you are too slow to avoid some of the damage, and that ends up, you know, getting you dropped. So why am I telling you this big fucking story? Because it seems like this weapon, the Frost Watcher, has a similar effect built into it. So it says that the scout rifle has been designed with a built-in chill arc, so that's basically a catalyst to allow anyone to fire cryogenic bullets. So I think what's going to happen is it's probably going to give you a similar-ish effect. It's going to change your damage to cryogenic or cold, and what that's going to do is it's also going to slow you down, but in that slowdown you're going to get more damage, so maybe the damage will ramp up with every stack. It says if the Descendant can handle it, Frost Watcher can provide them with the most cold-hearted skill in battle. Especially a cryogenic arc user like Hailey will benefit from a metabolic boost caused by the Frost Watcher's refrigerant that surrounds the rifle. So in my mind, I'm thinking like she already has this ability, right? So she has Cold Fury. Cold Fury increases your critical hit and all of that. And then what's going to happen is it's going to get you to the point where you are very close to max or something like that. And then this gun has that as well. And then basically maybe this weapon increases the crit damage or something like that. And then if you use the 2 of those together, you're going to get this like almost like double dip effect, which is going to deal a whole bunch of damage. So super cool. Let's check this. We're probably going to have to build this weapon by killing the new boss, because that's how it worked for the last weapon that was added mid-season, right? So we're probably going to get the pieces for the Frost Watcher from killing Deathstalker. So bear in mind, it's probably not going to be easy to build this weapon, but you know, let's go. Then we have something which I think is really fucking insane. They are adding highest difficulty infiltration operations. So those of you that mess around with infiltrations a lot will know that at the moment right now, the highest that you can push the difficulty is 250%. They are adding 400% versions of these now, which will be like the ultimate test of your character's ability to handle just massive amounts of enemies being thrown at them. So there'll be obviously way more enemies, like look at this fucking shit, this is nuts, but there'll also be way more enhanced enemies. So like, you know, enemies with additional, you know, affixes and things like that. And then this will culminate in a boss fight at the end of a infiltration operation. You'll fight 2 yellow bar bosses and not like the one like you usually do. So this is really cool. I like this. It means that you'll really have to min-max your builds in some cases to be able to do this content. I'm fucking here for it. I think it's great. And more importantly, by doing this activity, you're going to be able to obtain a exclusive currency that you'll be trading to this new vendor that's being added, that will allow you to trade your duplicate crafting material that you have nothing to do with in the game right now. You can't sell it, you can't drop it, you can't do nothing with it. You can actually trade that to this vendor, and this vendor will then be able to give you other items for it, or you trade it to the vendor for a currency and you use that currency to buy stuff from the vendor. But there's another kind of currency. So ETA 0 has 2 kinds. He has the trade-in currency, which you get from duplicates, and then he also has another currency which you obtain from doing these 400% infiltrations. Let's go. So what is ETA 0? He's basically like I think we've seen this kind of vendor before in games like Destiny, for example. So he will appear pretty much on a weekend, so from Fridays until Sundays, and he will have a list of goods each week. This will change every week, and this will be consisting of Descendant blueprints, weapon blueprints, materials, inventory expansions, paints, and all kinds of stuff that you can trade with standard ETA vouchers and premium ETA vouchers. So I think basically how this is going to work, in addition to the rotating shop, offers a feature to exchange surplus weapon blueprints for ETA vouchers. So I think the surplus blueprints that you have, you will change those for standard ETA vouchers. And then when you do 400% infiltration operations, it's going to give you premium ETA vouchers. Or it might be the other way around, right? I might have it the wrong way around. But that's the point. The thing is, you'll be able then to buy the stuff there. It's also saying here that, because this part is very important, it's saying that in addition to the rotating shop, ETA also offers the feature to exchange surplus weapon blueprints for ETA vouchers. However, due to the limited amount of goods that ETA brings in, the amount of blueprints that can be exchanged each week is also limited. What this means is, imagine that he has, I'll give you an example, because this is how I think it's going to work. I'm pretty sure actually. Let's say, for example, he has the weapon blueprint for Enduring Legacy, and you want to build a 4 out of 4 Enduring Legacy. So for that, you need the original one, and then you need 4 more. So you need 5 in total. They're going to make it so that he doesn't sell 5, or he doesn't sell an unlimited amount of these. He's probably going to sell 2 of the Enduring Legacy blueprints. So you can buy 2, and that means you'll be able to upgrade your gun twice. We see something similar in the shop in the game right now for this Freyna event, where you have limited options on certain things. So that just kind of like seems as the same, right? But it says, for now, ETA will serve to consume some of the surplus blueprints, but will continue to expand opportunities to utilize them more effectively. They're also saying that we're also planning new content that will consume surplus blueprints even after ETO is added. So the point is, they recognize that this can't be the only way that you get rid of duplicates, because you're going to have far more duplicates than you can pump into this vendor, but they're creating other ways to do it as well. It's just occurred to me now that it can also be this I might be reading this, and again, I said it earlier in this video, but the translation from Korean to English oftentimes causes this, but I realized that you can also read this differently. Instead of them having a limited amount that they can sell to you, that the vendor can sell to you, this can also mean that the amount that you can put in is limited. So let's say if you have 10 copies of one blueprint, you can't put all 10 in at once. Like he'll only, ETA 0 will only accept 2 at a time or something like that, because that's how they keep whales from basically, actually I think this might be right though. I think I might have just fucking cracked the code, because this is how they keep whales this is how they keep whales from just having like an immense fucking advantage right from the bat. Because like, for example, me, I have upwards of 50 copies of certain of these blueprints, And that would mean that I could swap in all 50 and just get a fucking like truckload of these ETA vouchers, and I'll just be able to, you know, buy to my heart's content. But doing it this way, where it limits the amount that you can actually exchange into the vendor, means that you can't flood him, and that means that everybody has the same amount of advantage at the same time. Whales don't. Yeah, I'll be able to swap more in down the road because I'll always have duplicates, but at a time per weekend, I won't have any advantage over another player as a whale. And then last but not least, this part of the year is really got me all hot and bothered. And this is, there's obviously still a bunch of other changes which they aren't mentioning in this dev update, but they do mention that the Resource Defense Special Operations, which this is the one right in Echo, has been underplayed compared to Mine Blockade. So Kuiper Mine in Sterile Land, for instance, gets played more because of the fact that the rewards seem to be better in that, and also because you can do it quicker. There's 10 waves, whereas this shit is 36, if I'm not mistaken. So they're saying that they plan to improve resource defense and make it more interesting by shortening the playtime to the level of Mine Blockade, so it goes from 36 to 10, and then increasing the number of monsters and changing the placement style. I fucking love this. This basically seems like an endless thing where here's your reactor and all the enemies are coming at you in a sort of like almost in lanes, and you pretty much, okay, this person is basically just fucking everything up with Kingsguard Lance here, which I love. But the point is each player can have like a lane, and you can just be in charge of a lane, and you just got to keep these enemies from running at the reactor. So I like this. This seems W. So let's go ahead and check that out. And then also they do mention that this system will allow, so reactor farming is another big thing, right? So currently the way how reactors work, and I know this video is getting a little bit long, guys, so thanks for bearing with me, but this is a very important topic, and this might be the most important part of the patch, at least for me. I like Ultimate Freyna and all this other stuff, but reactor farming is a little bit of a fucking eyesore in the game right now, because of the fact that you have so many pieces of RNG working in on it, and this is something that they're taking into account. Basically how it's going to work now is they're saying to reduce the inconvenience of having to farm a new ultimate reactor every time you switch to a new weapon, we're introducing the reactor implant system. This says that it will allow you to implant the weapon optimization conditions of other ultimate reactors to your current ultimate reactor. An ultimate reactor can have up to 3 weapon optimization conditions, and you can freely implant weapon optimization conditions based on your weapon settings. So let me go back to the game quickly so that we can just imagine what this is going to work like. So you can see at the moment right now, I have a reactor here with a piercing light mounting. But let's say, for example, I didn't want to use piercing light. I wanted to use afterglow instead. This means that if I have another reactor with an afterglow mounting on it, I can take that reactor and I can move or duplicate its afterglow mounting onto this one here. But furthermore, each reactor can have 3 mountings on them. So I could, for example, take this frozen singularity reactor here, and I could mount my piercing light onto it. I could mount my enduring legacy onto it, and I could mount my Greg's reverse fate onto it. That means that it doesn't matter which one of my 3 weapons that I switch to, I will always have my 160% skill power active. And this is a huge change. This is really, really welcome, and it's really, really awesome. But unfortunately, there's one thing that is not mentioned here, and that is not addressed yet, and that is the trash rolls that you can get in substats. So if I just move my face over here, that you can get in substats and reactors. So unfortunately, okay, I have a bunch of W reactors here, so nothing too fucking weird. But like, for example, you can still get reactors that drop. So this is a frozen phase reactor, and it has chill, skill, and dimension on it. A lot of the times you will still find a reactor that has fire skill damage and like fucking fusion on here, for example, as the substats. And this is something that I need them to consider, that they need to limit the pool that these reactors can roll from, and that is unfortunately not addressed. Again, let me be very clear. I think the mounting change is fucking huge, and it is a big thing, and it's gonna help a lot with reactor farming and being able to use the same reactors for different weapons. But down the line, it might be something that's worth considering from their side to just further on help with just focusing into, because remember, it still doesn't say, if they limit the substat that roll on reactors, it still doesn't mean that you're just going to be walking and fucking get uber reactors to just drop the whole time. There's still some min-maxing which needs to happen. Like, for example, you are looking for Colossus, and you're looking for critical hit damage, right? That's still a specific role that you're looking for that rolls from a big pool of stuff, right? The only thing is you're eliminating things which you would have no way of using on a reactor, which basically instantly kills the reactor. I'll give you an example. Like if you roll a reactor and it has additional skill attack when attacking Colossus on it, and you're like, fuck yes. And it's this frozen phase reactor, so it has chill, skill, and dimension. And then it rolls fusion on there. That reactor, no matter what, is inferior to fucking anything else that has at least the rolls on it. It's a dead reactor because you don't have fusion skills, or it's chill, skill, and dimension, and it rolls fucking fire on it. It's a dead substat. So it's not the case of like rolling something like additional skill attack and then cooldown, where you're like, okay, cool, well at least I can still use fucking cooldown, that's cool. When it rolls a different element that your Descendant has no way of fucking producing, it's a dead reactor. You're literally wasting a stat point. And yeah, you can use the reactor, and if you're not concerned with min-maxing and stuff like that, you might even get away with it. But the point is, you're missing one entire piece of additional boost to your character because it's essentially a dead roll. And that's it for the video. Thank you so much for watching, especially if you made it this far. A little bit of a long one. I wanted to go through all this stuff and then realized I like talking about it way too much. But thanks for sticking with me. Let me know in the comments down below what you're most excited for on October 10th. I think there's a bunch of more stuff hidden in the patch that we don't know about yet, but which might still surprise us. Of course, when that patch drops, I'll make a video just like this one, going through what I think are some of the more important things to look at. Have a look at the channel for a review of the hotfix, which dropped on the 26th of September. There was a bunch of cool stuff in there, some cool quality of life stuff. Other than that, it's just super important to me that you have a fantastic morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world. Till next video, fucking cheers.